Hey guys, this is Sarah from Momma Sparkles, and today we are doing our very first tutorial video. Hey guys, so we'll be creating my Northern Lights glow in the dark cup. Here we have a 20 ounce here, which we've already prepped. Prep consists of sanding and washing. We're using a 20 ounce provided by Celtic Lily, and we'll be using the Galaxy Sparkles from Poly Glitter. And so I have already pre-mixed my epoxy, and I mix a very small amount because we are doing the epoxy method with applying the glitter. You only need a small amount when applying because you'll be applying a very thin coat, as you'll be seeing here. Please follow our YouTube channel as we explain the process of mixing in another video. So right now all I'm going to do is start applying the epoxy on here. And I'm just going to start putting it into sections, and then I'll start working it in. Like I said, you need it very thin amount. You don't need it super thick, as the glitter will not adhere evenly. So I'm just going to quickly put some on here, and then I will start working it in. So the amount of epoxy we are using for the application epoxy method is 5 milliliters for the 20 ounce. You mix 2.5 of A and 2.5 of B of your epoxy resin. When you are applying this thin amount, it does take some working it, as you don't want it to be thick in areas. You want it to be super thin. This will take some time to work it through. Patience is a virtue. When I apply this process here, I actually like to take the rod off the turner and hold it as I'm doing this, but because we are doing it through a video process, we have it on the turner right now. So what I'm doing now is I'm just making sure, as I'm applying a small amount of pressure, I'm just moving it down the cup and getting this last bit on the end here to make sure all the epoxy is on here nice and smooth. Now I'm getting the bottom here. Again, just a nice thin coat, and making sure all the surface area is covered, so when we apply our glitter, it adheres to the whole entire cup. Now that the epoxy is on our cup, we're going to let it spin for a little bit to even out. And I'm going to look to see if there are any bare spots. If there are, then I will work the epoxy in more. But as of right now, it looks like it's a nice even coat and we are not missing any spots. Except for that. Now that we are done with the epoxy part, I'm taking my glove off that has the epoxy all over it, and I will dispose of it. Next, we are applying our glitter. This is a poly glitter exclusive called Galaxy Sparkles. This was created, its main intentions for this design. I created the mix, and Poly Glitter has it available at their shop. It is a combination of black and other colors, so it replicates the night sky, which is perfect for our northern lights. So now I'm going to take a piece of paper and place it underneath so to catch our excess, and the excess that is caught on the bottom of this paper will go back into the bottle. So now I'm going to just sprinkle an even coat on here. Working from the top down to the bottom. When applying your glitter on with the epoxy method, I highly recommend getting a good shaker that has a small enough holes for the glitter to fall through and multiple. The bigger holes on the shakers can be done, but you don't get as even of a coat. Now I'm just going to go through and just add a lighter layer to make sure there's no spots that are not even, because we want it to be an even coat. And you'll know if it's not even if you start seeing splotches or blank voids in your glitter where there's either not enough glitter for the epoxy to hold onto, or there's too much epoxy. As we let that spin, I will show you an example. So with this one, this was a wine cup that we have done. And as you can see, this did not have a full even layer. You can tell where the glitter is crunchy looking and then smooth. This smooth part is where you don't have enough glitter applied to your epoxy. However, I did this intentionally because the trees were going to go on here, and so I didn't need it to be a full glitter lay. Now that this is all done, we're going to let this spin, and you'll come back in about 4 hours to do a flood coat and add on our northern lights. Now that this is done turning, it's actually been more than 4 hours. When I first started this, it was later, so we are now ready to apply our epoxy. I already have my epoxy mixed. When at this step, you want to mix extra to allow yourself to mix 7 colors together. So what we ended up doing was mixing 30 A and 30 of B, which equates to 60 milliliters total. And we have it in our nice big cup. And so now what I'm going to do is do the flood coat, which is going to be a thicker amount, onto the cup. Once that's on there, we're going to move on to our next step. So here we go. So I'm just making sure there's plenty of coverage on here. Normally when I'm doing this, I have this cup facing a different direction, so this is a little different for me, but you can kind of get the gist of as we are applying this, it's actually rather thick. As this is spinning, I'm just moving my finger along and making sure we have an even amount. And I will slowly drag my finger down the cup as it spins, moving the epoxy along with it, but leaving enough spacing so that way we have a decent flood coat over our glitter. And I will keep doing this until we get down to the bottom. Now that I'm down to the bottom, I'm going back over what I just did to smooth everything out because there will be rings going down the cup. And as I go to the bottom, I just pull it over the lip, the edge of the cup. Drag the epoxy over so that way there is a perfect smooth edge. Now that it is done, I'm going to let this spin for a moment. I will take my heat gun or my torch. Either method is perfectly fine. I prefer the torch as it helps get rid of bubbles better. I will hit it a couple times as it is spinning, and then we'll move on to mixing our colors. Make sure you don't get close to your cup with the flame because you will scorch the epoxy. Make sure you don't hold it over your epoxy for very long as you can burn and catch fire on your epoxy. Perfect. Now we're moving on to our next step. I am going to be using 4 different glow powders that will be from Poly Glitter. We have a green glow powder, a purple glow powder, a pinkish orange glow powder, and a white glow powder that will glow blue. And then we'll also be mixing some paints, neon purple, pink tourmaline, which is a sheer pink metallic-y, and ice blue, which is a metallic. Now that I have these out, I'm going to pour some epoxy in. You don't need very much of the epoxy with this process. Just that much. Add it to all 7 cups. Your choice if you want to use all 7 or if you want to only have certain colors. That is your choice. I like all 7. It really brings this cup together. Depending on the intensity of your glow, it will depend on how much of the glow powder you will want to use. I want this to really glow, so I have added extra. If you don't want it to glow that much, you can always use less. I used 1 scoop of my big popsicle stick. And now I have popsicle sticks broken in half for my measuring cups. And now I'm just going to add in and mix the epoxy in with the glow powders until you have a nice consistent color. And now I'm going to drizzle this color on this cup. And try to visualize the northern lights as you're doing this. And have fun. Your work time will be dependent on the type of epoxy you use. If you have a shorter work time with the epoxy, when you get to the stage, you'll probably want to speed it up because it will get thick. We're on our last color for the glow powder, which is the green. Now that I have the glow powders on here, I'm going to take a scrap piece of paper towel and I'm going to rub this in, just like you would with a marble design. And as I wipe with paper towel so I'm not mixing my colors with my fingers. Wipe up and wipe down in different directions. You'll start to see this come together as you are smearing it into the epoxy. Now I'm moving on to my paints. You don't need a whole lot with your paint and your epoxy. If you add too much, it gets really stringy. Mix it in. And then apply. I use 2 different purples with this. One is a glow powder, one is a neon color. The glow powder does not glow purple, it glows a green. I wanted this to have a more vibrant purple for the daytime. Again, I'm going to take a paper towel and I'm going to smear that in. Moving on to our next color, pink tourmaline. I like this pink. It's very pretty and it really goes well with this cup. As you can see, my work time is really limited and I am running out of time. But keep pushing through, it will come together. Our final color is this light blue. And finally, smear it in. Next, I'm going to hit it with just a little bit of heat and then we're going to let it spin. We're going to let this spin for about 8 hours and then let it fully cure for 8 hours. So we're going to spin and cure for 8 hours. The next step is going to be the trees and stencil. Now that our cup has finished its cure process and we are able to touch it just fine, we're going to move on to our next step, which is the trees. And what we'll be needing is masking tape, transfer tape, scissors, and your stencil. We use 631 vinyl for this process. It helps with the applying and then taking it off easily without fighting around with it. We used a simple tree line and we filled the whole entire page. And then we took the inside out, so we just had the outside outline, as you can see. Now, the way I have found to apply this in ease and not have to worry with the trees not lining up, going upwards on the cup or downwards and having it an even lay on here, is I cut it up into strips. So that's what I'm going to be doing now, is I'm going to cut this into pieces and sections and then I'll start applying it. Now that I have my strips cut up and ready to go, I'm going to actually take the end piece off to the side, and I'm going to start with the middle piece. Now that I have it all ready, and I have cut off the bottom section that we will not be using, I will start applying it to the cup. Now I'm going to take my second piece and I will continue on until we have the whole entire cup wrapped around. Now that that is all done, we are going to move on to the next step, which is taping off the top part of our cup here. Again, do not stress over the creases or if it's not 100% lined up. Once it's spray painted, you will not be able to tell. Now that it is all taped off, I'm going to step outside and give it a nice quick spray paint with black spray paint. Now that we have finished spray painting and letting it dry, we are ready for the next step, which is taking off our stencil and tape. So we'll start peeling back the layers and exposing our northern lights. Now that we've gotten majority of our stencil off, we're going to go in and get the little pieces that were left behind in the trees. Now that it is all done and all the stencil has been removed, we are ready for our final coat. The amount that we have with her is a total of 30 milliliters, so we did 15 of A and 15 of B. Mixed it, and so now we will be good to go to put on our final coat for top and bottom. I have mixed extra for another cup. Ideally, you probably only need half of that amount for a final coat. Now I will be hitting it with my torch to get all the air bubbles out, and then I will let it spin for 8 hours.